Hey guys, this is Spark Plus Ultra here, and this is part 7 on What If Deku Had Tetsuo Powers. No more fucking around! And I hope you like this video, and hope you subscribe. Deku with a broken and frozen arm, and Shadow with a shock to his face, and gets into serious. And then Setsuna says, "Come on, Deku, do it! Take him down!" And Monoma says, "What are you doing, Setsuna? You're class 1B. You should be rooting our side." And Setsuna looks at Monoma. He's my boyfriend. And looking at him with a dead stare of, "Do not mess with me." And Monoma then says, "Well, I can't really play favoritism with her feelings." And sighs out of that. And Deku says, "What's the matter, Mr. High on the Life? Wanna fight?" And Shadow says, "Didn't expect you to be crazy." And Tetsuo says, "Well, he ain't crazier than me, but he's damn well close." Laughing it off. And Deku says to the guy that nearly wiped out the past. And Tetsuo says, "Well, never mind, take him down!" And Deku then uses his electrons of psychosis to get Shadow to stay in place. But Shadow dodged out of the way, and Deku says, "You're pissing me off, this ice slaying shit." And Tetsuo says, "So? You can make gravity go any different direction?" "Yes, but remember, gravity has an effect of it on certain directions." And then Tetsuo says, "Right, making difficult on ice is hard, because no matter if you have the force to it, you need to stop the inertia, making the slide part without a handful. Those electrons are not as useful when it comes to ice." And Deku says, "Right, so you know what the shtick is." And Tetsuo says, "Want me to conjure up a storm for you?" And Deku says, "That'll be over." And Shadow says, "Stop thinking and fight." And Deku then says, "Oh shit!" And Shadow then grabs his other arm and freezing it, but he also makes Deku slip. And Deku says, "Whoa!" And Deku looks down when he was slipping. "He made ice to make me fucking slip?" And Tetsuo says, "Be wary, you dumbass." And Deku says, "Oh, I am." And Deku then uses his gravity to slide back to make a flip. And feeling his arm, he might be not feeling the pain, but he can feel the cold. Ugh, that is so chilly. And Tetsuo says, "Now, what should we do?" And Deku says, "Looks like I gotta use all for one." Thinking to Tetsuo. Tetsuo says, "I hate this quirk." And Shadow says, "Are you done talking to Tetsuo?" And Deku says, "Yeah, about enough." And Shadow then creates a glacier. And Deku says, "You gotta be fucking... fuck it," and does psychosis. 5% shockwave! And using his finger to the badly bruised arm moving and using a psychosis shockwave and breaking down Shadow's ice glacier and pushing him back. And Deku says, "Come on, we're not stupid. Use your fire, you dumbass." And Shadow says, "Are you?" And Deku says, "Don't even think about it. I ain't asked by your dad. I just want you to do it, because you're a dumbass. You may be smart, but you have such a fatal flaw. It's your quirk, just like mine. You may be the one that gave you birth, but he ain't the one that's controlling it." And Shadow then realized what Deku was saying. And Deku says, "Then put your lady purse in your flaws and just fight me, dumbass! And Suki then creates enough electrons with One For All, creating One For All. Psychosis, 13%. Psychic shock, yeah! And feeling the shock of the psychic. And Shoto then gets pushed back again. And Suki says, are you finally done thinking it out? Come on! And putting his hand to saying, bring it. Shoto then looks at Deku and says, fine. And using his fire and ice side, be careful what you ask for. And Suki says, heh. And Tetsuo says, why did you encourage him? And Suki says, I hate beating a guy that is down on his parent like that. So, and Tetsuo said, but we would have beaten him easily. There's no way he would have won if we had a clever skill. Oh wait, teleportation. And Suki says, who cares? And Tetsuo says, I wanted to end the fight because of what your idea had. And Suki says, I never said anything about quickly finish the fight. And then Tetsuo says, what? And Suki says, yeah, I was mostly having the whole thing holding it back. And Tetsuo says, you mean you were doing it intentionally? With grinding teeth. And Suki says, what? It's not going to be. And Tetsuo then says, that's it. And slapping him in the face. Ow. And Tetsuo says, fine, mutate into a goddamn monster, you dumbass. And Suki says, well, that's a real shit show. But when he said that, Shoto said, are you done? And Suki says, yeah, me and Tetsuo, a little argument. And then Shoto thinks, little? Seems like a big argument. And Suki says, alright, come at me, you pompous, low introvert. And Shoto says, with pleasure. And freezing the ground and using his fire to shoot at the same time. And Suki says, oh crap! And then hitting the ground, shattering the ice and blocking the fire. And Suki feels the heat. Whew, is that 3,000 degrees? And Tetsuo says, that's what I was thinking. And Suki says, what? You didn't even... And Tetsuo says, I read Endeavor's mind. And Suki says, oh shit. And Tetsuo says, yeah, now we can't grab him or teleport him anymore. And Suki says, whatever, let's have some fun. And Tetsuo says, you are a certified dumbass. But okay. And then Shoto slides on his ice with fire coming out his hand. And Suki uses his gravity to make himself propel and sliding at the same pace at Shoto, but he blocks it with his psychic shield and negates it by redirecting the fire to a different path. And Suki says, whoo! Now that's what I call heat. And Shoto says, are you done with these games? And Suki says, yeah, but I'll show you what my power can really do. And Suki gets up close. Shoto says, I won't let you. And when he tries to use his ice on Suki's hand, Suki then says, this is gonna be freaking hell. Psychosis. And grabbing Shoto's face. And Suki says, fuck. Yep, there's the pain. I retouched the pain. And that's well said. Oh, you really need to stop thinking things through like that. And Suki says, fuck off. And when Shoto tries to freeze Suki's leg, Suki says, not this time. And Suki uses his psychic attack to hit Shoto's nervous system to knock him out. And Suki says, sorry, Shoto, but I need to end it now. And then Shoto says, at least it was fun. And passing out while Zeiss stops making. Suki then holds Shoto's hand and feels his arm of frost burn. And Suki then says, "Oh, that hurts." And then the ref says, "Shoto Todoroki has been knocked out. The winner is Zuko Midoriya." And Tetsuo says, "Yeah, cheer on, yeah. While I bitch slap you to a pennyfold." And Zuki says, "I get it. You're angry. Please let it go with this slide." And Tetsuo says, "You're lucky. You're not a monster." And Zuki says, "Oh, look at the time. Let's go." And Zuki walks and then goes into the room and gets healed up by the nurse. And the nurse says, "You are so reckless." And Zuki says, "Well, I had to shut off my nervous system. Plus, it really helps on getting rid of some of my quirks, backlash." And Tetsuo says, "It doesn't negate it. It just fully resists it. You get somewhat of it in you. Luckily, it was slow as hell." And Zuki says, "I know." And with a cheeky smirk, and Tetsuo says, "You are lucky I'm not going to send you to the atmosphere." And Zuki says, "Sorry, you cannot." And Tetsuo then cracks his hands. And when he finally feels his arm and sees the scar, Zuki says, "Well, I felt way worse scars than that." And then Hatsume comes in and says, "Ah, Suku and Tetsuo." And both Suku and Tetsuo says, "How's it going?" Tetsuo says, "What's up?" And Hatsume says, "I'm glad that you won." And Suki says, "Oh, did you?" And Hatsume says, "No, but I did test out and get my gear, showing the people who want to test it." And Suki says, "That's great." And Tetsuo says, "Huh? What is she talking about?" Suki says, "Real estate business." And Tetsuo says, "Ah, you use Ida as a pawn. Clap, clap, clap." In very clever fashion. And Hatsume says, "Well, I didn't mean to use him, but I had to show my babies." And Suki says, "I get it." And Tetsuo says, "Hey, a person's gear is a person's child." And Suki says, "True on that." And Hatsume says, "So true, if it's a mechanic or a engineer." And Tetsuo says, shaking his head. And then Setsuna gets to Zuko and says, "Oh man, you really got hurt in there." And seeing Hatsume as well. "How's it going, Hatsume?" And Hatsume says, "Nice to meet you." And Hatsume says, "Who is she?" And Setsuna introduced herself. I'm Setsuna. I'm Zuko's." And Zuko says, "She's my girlfriend." And Hatsume says, "Oh wow, it's nice to meet you. I help out with your boyfriend's stuff a lot, and made a favorite thing that he wants to ride." And Setsuna says, "Huh? What do you mean by that?" In curiosity. And Zuki says, "She was the one that made a bike for us." And Tetsuo says, "Not just any bike, but one of Kanada's." And Zuki says, "I don't think she can hear you this time." And Tetsuo says, "Fuck!" And Setsuna says, I bet it would look awesome." And very intrigued, but also happy to hear that Zuki got a ride. And Zuki says, "I'm going to be riding it to check on every lane to help out deal with villains." And Setsuna says, "Always thinking ahead. I am amazed to hear that, Zuki." And Zuki says, "Hell yeah!" And then Hatsune hears, I think Tenya is gonna fight you next. And Zuki says, this is going to be easy. And then Setsuna says, go get him, Suku. And Suku says, no prob. And then Zuki walks off. And Tetsuo says, jeez, you are a lady killer. And Zuki says, what do you mean by that? Nothing, Tetsuo says. And then, let's get this out of the way. Zuki teleports everywhere that Ida runs, trying to escape from him, or try to get behind him, but it doesn't really work out. And Zuki pushes him off. So, yeah. And now, the final round. And Zuki goes face to face with Bakugo. And Tetsuo says, you haven't used your precognition, have you? And Zuki then forgets. Oh, right. You never taught me that. I assumed you figured it out. And Zuki says, give me a break, I learned other bunch. Give me a little credit here. And Tetsuo says, I already gave you credit. There's enough said on your talent. And Zuki says, fine, be a teacher for once and tell me. And Tetsuo says, hey, I'm always a teacher, you dick. Fine, if you can let your body feel the contact on your eye, then it'll project a similar thing to what you can see in the future. But it's only effective in the mind, not on the eyes, pal. And Zuki says, I'm aware. And Tetsuo says, yeah, be careful for major backlash. Well, I'm gonna be fighting Bakugo, so it ain't that hard. And Zuki then goes ahead and tries using precognition. And Tetsuo says, yep, there's a backlash. But then Zuki then feels it and it's honestly much more refreshing. And Tetsuo says, yeah, pain in your system has been fully mended in ya, so it'll be like a tiniest migraine there is. And Zuki then says, good enough. And when Zuki was going to go out and fight Bakugo, Zuki then realized he almost forgot something. Oh yeah, Tetsuo. And Tetsuo says, what's up, big lips and no ball? And Zuki says, I'll take that as a compliment. And Tetsuo says, what is it? I don't have all day. Actually, I do. You know that statement. And Zuki said, you know the guy, your friend, Kanada? And Tetsuo says, yeah. And then Zuki tells him, Kanada and his friends a lot. And Zuki, ready to get the backlash. But Tetsuo says, really? They're here? And Zuki looks and sees Tetsuo tearing up a bit. And Tetsuo says, God, fucking good. And smile and says, I wanted to apologize to them so fucking much, but it's a different universe, so I don't even know how to explain it to them. And Zuki says, well, you got to explain the little details and all that, but you have to tell them. And Tetsuo says, yes, I know. Fuck, sucks. And then Zuki goes and faces Bak. And Tetsuo says, wait, when were they there? When were they here? And Zuki says, I guess they were talking to me and just analyzing me. And Tetsuo says, ha! Typical Kanada! And Zuki says, And Tetsuo says, Kanada's reaction speed is such that it's fast as light. And Zuki says, you know how? And Zuki then realized, wait, don't tell me. And Tetsuo says, yeah, I was the one. You are such an asshole. And Tetsuo says, give me a break. Akira was the asshole who did this shit. And I'm the guy that accidentally started it. And Suki says, oh, when I'm getting into this, you are going to be physically feeling pain. And Tetsuo says, don't you fucking dare, or I am gonna make you implode, pal. And Suki says, Suki and Tetsuo looks at each other and then laughs it off. Oh wow, we were really just getting our game here. And Tetsuo says, yeah, I knew you won't be ballsy enough to do that. And Suki says, and I know you're not going to do it because you need. And Tetsuo says, yeah, well, I am your teacher. And Suki says, let's just get to the Bakugo part. And Tetsuo says, no problem, swag. And Suki goes and gets into the arena. And Bakugo says, bring it. Let's see if your guns ain't better with your stupid quirks. And then Tetsuo says, man, he really knows that accurate crap. And Suki says, that's his most pristine thing. Plus he is almost like you. And Tetsuo says, hey! And Suki says, come on, it's just gonna be facing him. Now I feel like I am rooting for Bakugo. And Suki says, whatever. And Bakugo says, hey, stop muttering to yourself, to your little friend, and pay attention! And going to attack Suki, and Suki then says, already seen it, and dodge the attack. And Bakugo says, and Bakugo then explodes on the other side, and Suki then jumps back away. If I make it right on time, I can predict almost all of his attacks. Need to be faster. And Tetsuo says, wow, you really are aggravating him. And Bakugo says, you learned something, didn't you? And Tetsuo says, told ya. And Suki says, well, it's a fight. And then Bakugo then creates a unexpected trick. Then Bakugo goes to attack Suki. And Suki then sees, it's not using explosion. It's not in the protection. And seeing on his right hand. And Bakugo says, let's see if you can dodge this. Stun grenade! And Suki then sees the flash. Ah! That's a fucking mouthful. And feeling his eyes drenched on that light. And Bakugo says, no, I got him. And then Tetsuo gets in, says, left! And Suki dodged. And Bakugo says, damn it, the bastard is helping him. And Tetsuo says, now, kick his ass! And Suki then kicks Bakugo's leg. Ow! Freaking ow! Bakugo feels the kick. And Bakugo says, you want to have a kick? Try this! And when Bakugo was aiming for his balls, Suki says, Tetsuo! Tetsuo says, getting your berries! And Suki then realizes, oh shit! And then jumps up in the air and Bakugo tries to kick it, but sees Suki up. Stop avoiding me, you asshole! And then Suki says, let's just end this quick. I think I need water droplets a bit. Try help get some water in my eyes. Tetsuo says, okay. Then Tetsuo says, middle in the center, and create a psychotic attack to not make him move anywhere. And Suki says, no problem. And Suki then creates one for all, 10%. And Bakugo sees his attack and dodges in the middle. And Suki says, you fall for it. And Tetsuo says, now, release! And Suki creates psychosis, tornado, hurricane, and getting the debris in the air and swirling around. Bakugo says, the hell! And then when he was in the middle, Bakugo was shocked on what's going on. And then Deku opens his eye and says, not this time. And Bakugo was going to try to figure out how to get out of there. But Suki grabbed Bakugo and says, "Alright, now, knockout." And Bakugo felt. Bakugo says, "You bastard," and knocking him out. And the tornado had subsided, and Zuki was standing tall, and Bakugo was knocked out. And Zuki then stands tall and says, "Are we done?" And Tetsuo says, "Yeah!" And President Mike says, "Zuki Midoriya wins!" And Zuki and all the other students, Bakugo and Tokuyami, were getting their medals. Zuki getting his gold medal, and Ida is not participating, obviously because of what happened to his brother. And Zuki, then the next day, all the students were in the classroom, and Azawa says this, "Alright, it's time to talk about your hero name." And all the students were happy to hear that, but were concerned as well. Aren't they going to do hero names if they take down actual villains? And Azawa says, "You're right, but you did take down due to the USJ incident, so they're going to be permanent, but you can't change it." And Midnight comes in and says, "Because it's hell to pay." And all the students were amazed on Midnight, except Zuki, who was thinking on a hero name. Magna Star? And Tetsuo says, "Nope, too formal, or too galaxy, like a star. Is there anything else you got, genius?" And Zuki says, "Hey, give me a break. I got the quirk called One for All, and you." And Tetsuo says, "Now I'm offended for that." Tetsuo says, "Why couldn't you just say Magnet Might?" And Zuki says, "Tetsuo, you're a genius!" And Tetsuo says, "Huh?" And Zuki writes down Magnum, and Zuki then says, "Miss Midnight, I already chose a hero name." And then Miss Midnight says, "Alright, come here, Zuki, what's your hero name?" And Zuki puts down the Electron hero, Magnemite. And that's where I'm ending this video. I hope you like this video and hope you subscribe. See you next time. Plus Ultra.